Do you have a dream that you're somebody else? If you do, you're actually in the minority. You know that most people do not. Most people only dream that they are themselves. But if you're one of the few who actually does dream that you are someone else, then you're just like me. I oftentimes dream that I'm a man, a, a woman, a child. Sometimes I'm even an animal. Sometimes I'm not even alive. That's what today's video is about. So, if you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and this is my new YouTube channel called Growing Up Shaman, where I tell true stories about non ordinary reality from the perspective of a shaman. Now, when I used to dream that I was somebody else, I thought it was normal. Um, I thought it was just a dream, quite honestly. And I'm sure that 99% of the time, it is just a dream. But there were two instances where I dreamt that I was somebody else that was actually in the process of dying. And these two people were actually children. So if you're sensitive to hardcore stories, you may want to take a pass on this one, but it won't be anything really gory. In fact, it may be something that you are surprised by. So the first time this happened to me, I was in my early 20s. I want to say this was back in 1998. Um, I was living on an island off the coast of Georgia at the time, an island known as Cumberland Island. And I had a dream one night that I was a little girl. I was maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And I was playing with my friend in his room. And we were just playing. I wasn't, didn't feel like I was in danger or anything. And suddenly I found myself like floating, like I was rising above my body. I think that I had received a blow to the back of my head, but I never felt the pain. All of a sudden, all I felt was me rising above my body. And the strange thing about this was that I felt nothing but complete and total forgiveness and love for this person who had just killed me. And I felt like I remember waking up and thinking, wow, well, that was a crazy dream, until the next day when I was watching the news. And all over the news, there was a story about a little girl who had gone missing. And it had happened in somewhere in South Florida. And so this was very far from me. I did not know who this person was. It was just something I'd heard on the news, but there was a big search and rescue thing that was going on. Everybody was looking for this little girl. And I was just keeping up with the news because I was concerned because I had had this weird dream. And come to find out, maybe a week or two later, they actually found the body. And guess where she was found? She was found underneath the waterbed of one of her friends that she had gone and played with. And so it made me wonder. It was like, wow, did I just help somebody cross over? Or did I just experience the crossing over of a child in a dream? I wasn't sure, but it was just a thought that I thought of, and it did not happen again until about a year or two later. And then, so about a year or two later, I was living in Utah. And once again, I had this dream. And this time, I was a 2 year old little girl. And in my dream, I woke up in darkness, in complete and total darkness. And I was waking up because I had heard my mom come home. And so I, as a little 2 year old, jumped out of bed and just started running towards the living room. I remember walking out of my room. I seemed to be living in a single wide trailer. So I walked out of my room, took a right down the hallway. It was still complete pitch black, but I knew where I was going. And then once I got to the living room and I was facing the actual entry door to the single wide, um, I could see my mother's face. And also, what I could see was blood stains on the side of the wall. And as soon as I saw that, I knew what I was looking at. I realized that shit had gone down in this single wide, and all I wanted to do was to protect this little 2-year-old that I was. I know it's kind of hard to understand, but it was like it was as though me and the 2-year-old were sharing the same spirit. And she didn't quite understand that she had already passed, and so she was still thinking she had a body. And when um when she ran into the living room and she saw her mother's face, and I recognized the importance of the situations, because I do not think that she understood the importance of seeing that what looked like red paint on the wall. um she did not understand the importance of the situation, but I definitely did. And my instinct was to protect her. And I know we were both in spirit form, but if you could turn a spirit around and face them towards you, that's exactly what I did. I just basically turned her into me. And then I felt her rise up out of me. And it was as though I had became the portal that helped her cross over. And this experience just freaked me out. It woke me up right away. And I was just like, "What in the world was that? That was freaky, you know?" And I just wanted to believe that this was just a dream, a nightmare, really. Um, but the next day on the news, they were talking about how there was a home invasion in a town 2 states over. I was living in Utah at the time, and the the home invasion occurred in Mesquite, Nevada, I believe. And so it's like a 45-minute drive from where I lived, but it was a little town that I actually would go visit all the time. So I was familiar with the area, but I did not know these people at all. And come to find out, what happened was the home invasion occurred when only the children were at home. There was a little 2-year-old and I believe a 8 or 9-year-old girl. And I believe the 8 or 9-year-old girl is the one who went to open the door when the home intruder actually came knocking. And the 8 or 9-year-old little girl, she actually survived the attack, but the 2-year-old did not. And I believe that the mother, when she walked into that door, she saw evidence of what had happened, and the look on her face was that of horror. And I remember my mother's face and what her body shape and everything. It was ingrained in my brain. And I remember just watching the news like every day, wanting to hear about, updates about this story. Um, because at first they couldn't find the intruder. And come to find out, what ended up happening was the mom had left the children alone, and she was allegedly selling things that she wasn't supposed to be selling. And turns out she wasn't even selling what she was saying she was selling. Someone had gotten screwed over, someone was pissed off, and they thought that they were going to come back to her trailer and get revenge. And when they didn't find the mom, they took revenge on the poor children. So yeah, that's the story of yeah, how I helped those 2 children cross over. And like I said, I thought it was just a dream at first, until the very first time that they actually arrested the mom, because once they found out that the mom was, somehow involved, they arrested her. And I remember seeing a news video of this mom being taken away in handcuffs, and she looked just like the woman in my dream. And that's when I knew that that was real, that it wasn't just, me having a crazy dream. This was me really helping a soul cross over who didn't even realize that she had passed away. So, anyways, um, crossing over children is actually a function of Hekate. If you don't know who Hekate is, you may want to go back and watch my video on Hekate. I had done a ceremony for her about a week ago, and just recently she connected with me 2 nights ago. And she connected with me once in the daytime and once at nighttime. And I'll get into that story here in just a little bit, but I just wanted to say that when she does what's known as psychopumping for children who have crossed over, she doesn't always necessarily go and collect the children herself. Sometimes she does have people do it for her. People like me, people who may know what blood on the walls means, people who have the experience of terrible things happening to them as children. I think I just resonated with this child, and I think that's why I was the one who answered the call when the call was made that this child needed help. But anyways, let me get back to my Hekate story. Um, I had two experiences with her on the seventh day after I did my ceremony. So what happened was I was sitting here in my living room just watching TV, and I was watching YouTube, and there was a video on King James. Now, King James was a king of England back in the 1500s, and he was responsible for the rewriting of the Bible, and he's also responsible for the witch hunts that happened during that time. And it all started because of a 16-year-old who had caught the eye of a young man who wanted her, and she had rebuffed his advances. And he had some power in the town, and he was able to capture her and torture her and force her to admit that she was a witch, even though she was not. And this torture ended up leading to more names being told, and all these innocent people just were being killed during these witch trials. They were being burned and tortured. And so, anyways, I was watching this video, and right when they were saying, they were talking or they were introducing King James, that as soon as they said something to the effect of that his purpose in life was to get rid of all of the witches, as soon as those words were spoken, I heard the loudest thunder I have ever heard in my whole entire life. It sounded like it happened right above my home. It didn't. It actually, come to find out, it was zero point 0.4 miles away, which is very, very close. And it was so loud that it rumbled the house, and I just remember feeling it in my body. And my first thought after I heard that was Hecate. Like, she was pissed off that those words had even been spoken in my house. And it almost felt like she took offense to King James and all he did. Because if you remember, Hecate is the queen of the witches, or the goddess of witches and healers and magic. She's also known as the queen of the night, and she is the leader of lost souls, you know. So she's got a lot of functions, she's got a lot of names, and when I experienced her in my waking hour, it was powerful. It was downright scary, to be honest with you. And it was so scary that I actually went outside to go check on my boyfriend, because it was not raining outside. We were under a thunderstorm watch, but it wasn't even raining. I had heard a couple of thunder strikes like far, far away. I'd heard them earlier in the evening, but nothing this close to my house. So I went outside to go check on my boyfriend. Like I said, he had been working out on the gate. And I said, "Did you hear that thunder? It was so loud." And he goes, "Yes, it was so bright too that I actually had to shield my eyes." And I asked him to come inside. I was like, "I'm worried about you. I don't want you working out here right now, especially near a metal fence, the metal gate." So he did come in. And that night when I went to sleep, I actually had a dream about her. And in the dream, I was sitting on my couch just like I had been when I heard the thunder, except In my dream, my boyfriend was with me. He was sitting on the couch as well. And instead of where the television was on that one wall, there was this huge mirror. And in the mirror, I could see not only my boyfriend and I's reflection, but I could see a woman wearing a white dress. And she had this jet black hair, and she had this pale skin, and she was looking at us through the mirror. And she was looking at us, and then she makes this movement with her arms almost as though she's taking off her shirt, but she doesn't take off, or her dress, but she doesn't take off anything. It was almost as though she was trying to tell me that it's time to shed some skin. And so I've been thinking about that, and wondering what she meant by that. I think I know, but it's it's something I'm still fighting. So anyways, I just wanted to share that story with you because I feel like it's all kind of related. I struggled with whether or not I wanted to tell this story because it's kind of dark, but it's the truth, and the story wanted to come out, so I'm telling it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that story. If you did, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for listening. Bye.